Afternoon, everyone, for the Cabinet meeting of the 17th of March 2021. We'll simply move through the agenda, and the first item is item 1, apologies from absence. I've got an indication that Jenny Molyneux may be late due to a prior meeting, so Cabinet member Jenny Molyneux might join us later if available. I think there's no other apologies, so that deals with item 1. Item 2 is declarations of interest and dispensations. I have none. Is anyone else indicating? No one else is indicating, so item 2 is dealt with. Item 3 is minutes of the Cabinet of the 10th of February 2021. Pages 5 to 22. I'll move those as a true record. Have I a seconder?
Yes, I'll second those minutes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any matters arising or any member wishing to raise anything on the minutes of the 10th of February?
No.
I have no indication as such. So I've moved and seconded. If no one else indicates, I take that as a true record. They've been formally passed by the Cabinet. Thank you very much. Unanimously. We now move on to item 4, which is minutes and committees of boards, panels and working groups. We only have one, which is the Cabinet Committee of Street Naming of the 10th of February. Just to make people aware, we have another Cabinet Committee street naming following this Cabinet meeting, but this is the 10th of February. The noting, I'll move those as a true record. Have I a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Does anyone wish to raise anything on that item? No one's indicating, and if no one else indicates, we'll note these as a true record and receive them to the Cabinet. That's formally done. Thank you very much. Item 5, reports of Cabinet members. There's no item coming to this Cabinet this afternoon. Item 6 is rent and service charge concessions for indoor market, pages 25 to 26. And the Deputy Leader, Councillor Paul Cox, will take this item. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. This report follows on from a previous Cabinet report in August 2020, which supported registered charitable organisations. However, it has now become clear that some organisations, whose purpose may be not-for-profit or for community benefit, did not fall within the general definition of a registered charity, but which the Cabinet may nevertheless still wish to support. This report clarifies the situation and allows organisations not necessarily registered at the Charity Commission due to their low income levels, for example, community not-for-profit organisations, social enterprises, community benefit societies, the opportunity to utilise the benefits laid out in the original report. I move the report.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'll second the report. Is there any matters arising on that report? I've got one indication. Councillor Marlene Howarth. Marlene.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I and the group, the Conservative group, understand the reasons for this report and what is happening, I have to say that we still have some grave concerns regarding it and the image that we're going to be sending out to the borough. If we fill the indoor market with, which is one of the jewels of the crown here in Hyndburn, with a series of charity stalls, when already the borough has plenty of them, it does concern me. Why can we not, why have we not put a cross-party team together to try and come up with a different plan and some better ideas of what to do with it? I just feel that all the money we've invested in this building and the further investment that's been approved we could achieve a much better plan than this. One that will benefit the council as well as the borough. I have several ideas, and I'm sure that other people within the council, other councillors, will have good ideas. And I just feel, in fact, I think all of you know how passionate I am about the market hall. I played a massive part when it was refurbished, and had really, really big ideas for it, and none seem to be coming to any sort of fruition. I do feel that we could have achieved much better things done to it, and I'm just really concerned. Is it too late for us to put a team together, cross-party, and come up with some ideas? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Marlene. I'm going to bring Kath Pratt in shortly. I'm sure Paul's going to respond, but also following on from yesterday evening's first steering group meeting of the Levelling Up for Town Centres, I'm sure all these points will be part of addressing that bid for the Levelling Up Fund. So it is critical that we'll all work together, but I'm sure Paul may come back. Councillor Catherine Pratt.
Just a point, Miles. If you're going to have these charitable and low-income stalls, are you going to put a limit on the number in? Otherwise, it's going to be overwhelmed.
I'll let Councillor Cox respond to that question, and Marlins as well. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do appreciate what Councillor Howarth has said, and I do understand that she has a big connection with the market after all the work that she undertook many years ago. And I do appreciate how this report could be interpreted in such a way. However, essentially, all this is doing is just allowing certain organisations the opportunity to come into the market. Now, this doesn't mean this is what we want. There's obviously going to be management discretion. There's going to be a discretion with the market manager about how this operates. You'll also note in the report that these organisations are on a very, very short-term lease. So it'll only be a 2-month turnaround if we do need the space for anything else. But more importantly, over the last 12 months, we've come up with several schemes to try and draw people and businesses into the market. For instance, we've come up with the new staggered rent approach, where it's implemented in phases. Starts off at no cost for the first month, then 30% for the second, 6% for the third, then finally 100% for the fourth month, which already we're seeing benefits that some traders have moved into the market all and making use of that. We've also seen our balconies, the take up on them has gone up as well. I think a lot has been happening, and we've also got to appreciate that we've been through a national pandemic and the market was hit significantly. But I was there last Wednesday speaking to the traders, and a lot of them were saying they genuinely feel like the mood and the atmosphere of the market is changing, and the drawing in and the people that are coming around and looking at stalls is increasing, and they're seeing the people, they're seeing the traders and talking to them. So yeah, I appreciate why you feel like this report is looking at us way we're going to inundate the market, but we're not going to inundate the market with charity stalls. Like I said, I'll take you back to with the wording. It's for community organisations, not for profit, social organisations, but they will only be a part. We want traders in there, and they will always have the priority. So this is just another step in the ongoing process we've got to improve the market. Thanks a lot, Chair.
Thank you very much. And just to sum up yet again, we can't take anything in isolation. And from yesterday evening's meeting about the formation of the steering group, about the bid for levelling up funding and moving forward at a pace, and to get the right professional advice engaged and make sure every stakeholder, whether it's the daytime economy, nighttime economy, and all the political parties come together on the council to make sure we have a successful bid, whether we can put that bid in as early or at a later stage. what we want is conciseness and engagement from all, and I welcome Marlene's positivity on that. It's been moved and seconded. If no one indicates against, I'll take it as a true record and we approve the report. Right, that item has been approved formally by the Cabinet. We now move on to item 7, which is the DfT statutory guidance proposed amendments to the taxi and private hire licensing policy, and the portfolio holder for resources is Councillor Joyce Plummer. So I'll hand over to Joyce.
Thank you, Chair. While the focus of the statutory taxi and private hire vehicle standards is on protecting children and vulnerable adults, all passengers will benefit from the recommendations contained in it. There is consensus that common core minimum standards are required to regulate better the taxis and private hire vehicle sector, and recommendations to this document are the result of TDEL discussions with the trade, regulators and safety campaign groups. The department therefore expects these recommendations to be implemented unless there is a compelling local reason not to do. Hyndburn Borough Council has carefully considered the proposals set out in the statutory guidance and have concluded that in order to review our current policy and bring it in line with DfT requirements, the additional steps set out below are required. A consultation on the additional requirements has now taken place. We ask for feedback from those in the taxi trade, members of the public who use taxis and any stakeholders who may have an interest. The proposed changes are set out below. No representations were received. All the changes are in Appendix 7, Section 310 from Para 1 onwards. Members are requested to approve the amendments of this policy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll second that report. Is there any members wishing to raise any points on the report? No one is indicating, so I'll formally put it to the Cabinet that we're all agreed. If no one raises their hand, I'll take that as a yes. That report is formally moved by the Cabinet and approved, and that deals with item 7. We now move on to item 8, which is the proposed sale of land at Church Canal Gateway, Blackburn Road, Church, Accrington, pages 107 to 114, and the portfolio holder for housing and regeneration is Councillor Lorraine Cox. Lorraine.
Thank you, Chair. This is a report I am delighted to bring to Cabinet which seeks approval to dispose of a prominent site in Church for retail use. The report informs Cabinet that the Council advertised its site, known as Church Canal Gateway, for sale. We received significant interest with 11 bids to purchase the site. The report summarises the highest bids. The report therefore invites Cabinet to consider the bids and recommends acceptance of bid A, and seeks a number of delegations to finalise the sale to bid A subject to legal and financial terms. I move the report.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. I'll second the report and just briefly add, I mean, this is yet another of the brownfield sites within Hyndburn which needs regenerating, a site which has been left neglected for as long as I've known it and been problematic like many other sites across the borough. So it is good. It is a key site coming into the borough, both for Accrington and Oswald Twistle at the gateway of Church, and it does need drastically regenerating. And actually the proposal which has been accepted was the highest bid, but it also has the added benefit of actually providing facilities for the township of Church and also the gateway into the borough. So I'm very pleased that this is actually moving forward and hopefully will be delivered after so many false dawns. Councillor Marlene Howarth.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do think this is a good idea. Of course, it's subject to planning approval, obviously. It would have been nice if we'd have known a little bit more about the retail and leisure facilities that they're saying they'll provide. I'm presuming that those will all come up at the planning approval. Is that right? Or can we be told now what sort of ideas they are? I'm interested in the leisure, really, the leisure side of it.
I'm sure the Cabinet member will have a dialogue with the officer, and that what information is publicly available can be given, and those which are confidential due to the nature can be given privately to you, Maureen.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Councillor Munsif Dad.
Yes, thank you, Miles, for that. I welcome the report and also the hard work that the Regen Department and the portfolio has put in to try and actually bring this proposal forward. Since last 4 years, I think this was part of my county division when it changed over in 2017. And that was obviously one of the main areas that I would like to have seen developed. But I'm glad that it's come to a conclusion now, and I think that is one of the major gateways in Church, a very prime spot, and the location obviously could do with the regeneration, and I'm glad this has come forward, and I fully support it, and I'd like to thank everybody involved.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dad. So it's been moved and seconded. If no one else indicates, we'll formally, as a Cabinet, accept the report and recommendations. Right, that is formally accepted by the Cabinet and noted the recommendations and approved. So that deals with item 8. We now move to the supplementary agenda, which is item 12. Just before I start on item 12, I just want to refer to 2.2, which refers to the legal terms set out in paragraph 3.8 of the report. It should read 3.18 in the report. This is a report I'm pleased to put to Cabinet for consideration. Accrington Stanley are a national brand, and the football club and teams are going through from strength to strength. However, their progress will be stifled without appropriate training facilities needed for a professional football club. At the same time, the council owns potential football training facilities at King George V playing fields that are no longer being used to anywhere near their full potential. Therefore, there is the potential to align Accrington Stanley's needs with the council's objectives of improving the economic, social and environmental well-being of the borough. That the granting of a lease to Accrington Stanley will achieve. This report asks Cabinet to consider and recommends the granting of a lease to King George V playing fields to Accrington Stanley Football Club Limited on a legal and financial terms set out in the report. It is important to stress that the granting of the lease will be subject to agreements and terms with the Fields in Trust, Sport England and the Football Foundation, and possibly the Secretary of State for Housing and Communities and Local Government. The report therefore seeks a number of delegations in order that the terms and the granting of the lease can be finalised. But this is a big moment in the history of the borough. Simply, Accrington Stanley have gone from strength to strength under the chairmanship under Andy Holt. And where they are now in League One is a credit to all involved at the football club and the pride it gives to the residents and far afield up and down the country. But importantly for them to keep at that level, they need the facilities that any other football league club of that ilk has. And sadly, Accrington Stanley hasn't. And we would aid them to leave the borough for training facilities. And I think it's an absolutely fantastic location in the borough to actually go up to the playing fields and play there and overlook the town they represent. It's an underused facility, sadly. And it's a facility which will need major investment by the football club, But also outlined in the report is the community use and engagement going along with that, due to the Fields in Trust and Sport England and the Football Foundation. So it's actually the best of both worlds. But even better than that is actually the financial contribution, what comes from the football club to the council. And what I want to specifically say today is that will be reinvested, and that will be reinvested at Wilson's Playing Field in the transformational agenda of leisure provision across Hyndburn, with the new facility proposed at Wilson's Playing Fields. So that £550,000, which comes from this lease, going through that due process, will be reinvested in leisure provision for the residents of this borough at a new provision at Wilson's Playing Fields, which I think we can all say is actually leisure going to leisure. So it gives me great pleasure to move this report and recommend the recommendations. Have I a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any members wishing to comment? I think all members are awestruck on what we've actually tried here and achieved between the council and the football club. I mean, it's not that many years ago where it was fraught between the council and the football club due to their dire financial position. But that has all changed in a matter of years under the chairmanship of Andy Holt, and the club has gone from strength to strength. At the same time, the council is engaged, whether that is through the new planning applications, whether for the previous stand or the new stand. And what we really want is the success of the club, because when Sunderland come and play and other footballs, thousands of visitors come to this town. They come round the town and spend their money. And if the club succeeds, it's not just the businesses, it's the hoteliers, it's the pubs, and it's probably the biggest attraction for people to come to this borough. So it's very important we support them and provide them the facilities that they go from strength to strength. So I'm extremely proud that we've concluded this, and hopefully everything goes through smoothly through the appropriate channels. So thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. If no one else wishes to speak, I take it that it's formally approved. Thank you very much. That's been formally approved with the highlighted recommendations and delegations. Thank you very much for that. We now move to Part C, which is exempt items, and I move exclusion of the public, that in accordance with regulations 4(2)(b) of the Local Authorities Executive Arrangement Meetings and Access to Information England Regulations 2012, the public be excluded from the meeting during the following items when it is likely, in the view of the nature of the proceedings, that there will otherwise be a disclosure of exempt information within the paragraphs of Schedule 12A of the Act specified at the items. I move. Have I a seconder, please?
Chair, before you move to that item, there is item 13.
I'll second that, Chair.
Also in Part 1.
Have I got item 13? Sorry about that. I didn't see that one. I do apologise.
It's on the rear of the supplemental agenda on the back page.
Thank you, Julie.
Welcome.
Joe will be shouting at me because it's the financial resources. I do apologise. Too all struck by the previous item. So before we actually exempt people, we'll move to item 13. And of course, it will be Councillor Joyce Plum. I do apologise for that.
Thank you, Chair. Budget Monitoring Report, January 2021. With 10 months of the financial year elapsed, the overall financial position of the council continues to improve, and the expected adverse variance has fallen once again this month to a forecast for the year of around 225,000. Early in the year, the forecast had been for a larger overspend of somewhere between £1 and £2 million. And while any overspend is not welcome, The reduction in change in our financial position over the last few months is very pleasing, given that elsewhere across the country, a wide number of councils are struggling financially and having to seek extraordinary approval from the government to keep themselves afloat. Without the impact of COVID-19, the council would be reporting a healthy surplus for the year, as it has done every year since 2003-2004. A combination of extra government grants and the generation of internal savings over the last few months has contributed to the improvements in our financial position. The potential losses figure at Hyndburn Leisure has stabilised and will be firmed up over the next few weeks, and they have done a remarkable job in limiting the financial impact of COVID on their business as well. We had hoped to secure around 170,000 of funding from the government to assist them. And while this figure looks likely to be confirmed, the government have at the last minute indicated the funding has been spread over 2 financial years, with only 50,000 of it available this year to help Hyndburn Leisure. This reduction of 120,000 in funding by the government for 2020-2021, of course, now falls back on Hyndburn Council to fund this, and this sum is over 50% of the projected overspend. I move this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Plummer. I'll second the report and note the update. Councillor Marlene Howarth.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking to point 3.8 on page 45 of the report, and that's part of the report shows an adverse variance of 218,000, which is partly due to additional staff costs at 228,000. Taking into consideration that most people were redeployed, can I request a full breakdown of reasons of how and why costs have been incurred and what additional staff was employed? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all, Councillor Howarth. I'm sure the portfolio will get that information too.
Yes, I will, and I'll let you have it, Councillor Howarth. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you.
Any other points on this financial update? It's been moved and seconded. If no one else indicates, I take it the Cabinet formally approved. The Cabinet have formally approved that. It's been moved and seconded, and thank you for that update. I'll read out again the exclusion, being too eager. Exclusion of the public, that in accordance with regulations 4(2)(b) of the local authorities executive arrangement, meetings and access to information, England, regulations 2012, the public be excluded from the meeting during the following items when it is likely in the view of the nature of the proceedings that there will otherwise be the disclosure of exempt information within the paragraphs of Schedule 12A of the Act specified at the items. I move. Have I a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
If no one else indicates, then I take it the Cabinet approve exclusion of the public. That's been formally approved by the Cabinet. Thank you for the public open meeting for who have joined us. I hope you found it informative. We'll now leave this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.